one thing everyone seems to want this year is a lot of holiday cheer, and it begins with the perfect Christmas tree. Joining us now on the Oakland County MegaCast is Amy Stark. She's the executive director for the Michigan Christmas Tree Association. Amy, thank you for being with us.
Well, thanks for having me. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas and happy holidays to you and your team as well. Just to start off, it seems like it's been a great year for the Christmas tree farmers.
It really has. Going into this situation back in March, April, we were really nervous about, what's going to happen down the road. We have a very short selling week season, it's only a couple of weeks, and we were kind of concerned. But then we were able to see some of the other commodities coming ahead of us, like pumpkins and apples, and they had booming seasons as well. And so we knew we better be prepared. And so our growers got together, came up with some best practices to keep everybody safe and be ready for our customers to come.
For us that aren't farmers at all, but can you talk a little bit about the process that it takes to actually get a tree from the seedling all the way to a Christmas tree lot?
Well, it takes about 10 to 12 years from seedling. But the tree actually is transplanted a couple times before it's found its forever home in a Christmas tree field. And so from that point, it's about 8 to 10 years. And, a lot of people now have these really tall ceilings and they want these really big trees, and those take even longer. So, and during that time, the growers have fertilized it and treated it for different things to be sure that, it doesn't have any pests or problems with it through the growing years, to make sure that it is a beautiful Christmas tree 8 to 10 years later.
But it's got to be hard to try to navigate the market from year to year because you don't know what it's going to bring. Like this year seems to be so popular because of the pandemic. And obviously no one predicted that 8 years ago. So how do farmers adjust in the middle of these cycles of need and not need?
Well, that's been kind of tough because we are kind of going into a time period where there has been a reduction in planting back in 2008, 2009, when the recession hit. We're kind of seeing those effects now. So there isn't as many trees as there were 10 years ago, let's say. And so you can't speed this process up. It is kind of what it is. A lot of people will go out to a farm and say, well, why are they closed? They still have trees. I can see them. But if they sell out everything they have, then they don't have anything for the following year. So they kind of have to decide, is this it? This is it. So I can be open next year for my customers.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things that people don't understand. I know that we had a tree farmer from up north that came down and set up the lot here in our neighborhood, and he sold out pretty quickly. But can you talk a little bit about the process and the sacrifice that some of these tree farmers go through to grow their product up north, but then to bring them down into the populated areas to sell them?
Oh yeah, it's a whole logistics situation of, they have to harvest, in November. You have to make sure that, you keep them in an area to stay cool and protected. And then you have to, get together with some trucking companies to bring them down into those areas. It's a lot of work. A lot of people think that, oh, Christmas trees, they're, you put them in the ground and a couple of years later you cut them and that's that. And there's a lot more to this. And there's a lot of science to it as well. The growers have to know when they treat for certain things, when they trim, when they shear their trees. All that is a process. And each type of tree is different. So you can't shear a Scotch pine when you were going to shear maybe a concolor. So they're just a little different. And it's amazing the stuff that, they know to make these beautiful Christmas trees.
How has technology played a part in the industry?
Well, it's interesting because there's some now heavy duty kind of tractors that will spray and trim at the same time. And do multiple rows, so it's not just one push mower going through and mowing. Some of that is on a small farm, but like a big wholesale farm maybe has, thousands of acres. So they have big industrial tractors that have been designed specifically for Christmas trees.
So when it comes to the Christmas tree industry, what does this really mean for Michigan's overall economics and the impact that it has on the state?
It's about 35 million to Michigan's economy. And a lot of people think, oh, like again, Christmas trees, my little local farmer down the road. And there's a lot of that. There's about 500 Christmas tree farms in Michigan, but we have a large wholesale market. We're third in the United States in Christmas tree production. So lots of trees, over 2 million sold out of Michigan every year.
So it's not just here, but it's also across, do they mainly like the Midwest region?
Oh, all over the place. I mean, you might be celebrating Christmas in Texas with a Michigan grown Christmas tree, or down in Florida. Yeah, they're all over.
So if someone is interested in the business side of this, because it really is fascinating, we don't think about it, especially when we live down in the Metro Detroit area. How can they explore more about the opportunities to try to get into this business?
Well, what they should do is obviously contact the Michigan Christmas Tree Association, and then we'll connect you with Michigan State is one of our educational partners. There's a lot of resources on the Michigan State Extension website about growing Christmas trees. And especially just getting in touch with the association to find a good, reliable nursery source, because that's your first step is starting, with a small seedling. But you can't just choose any seedling and say, I want to grow this, because it depends on the site to soil, what you can grow and where. So, you have to also be committed to that 8 to 10 year process before you get a return on your investment. So a lot of people get excited saying, oh, yay, Christmas trees are selling out. I want to get into that business. You have to understand that it's going to take time before you get your money back.
That is a long time, but you have to be patient. Amy start with us here on the Oakland County MegaCast. She's the executive director for the Michigan Christmas Tree Association. And with that, Amy, when we talk about the different kinds of trees, I know that most people by now have their tree up, but there are still some people trying to, it's maybe their holiday tradition that they don't put it up until Christmas Eve. So for the few people out there who still want that live Christmas tree, what should they look for?
Well, you want to make sure it's fresh. So if you're getting one from a lot, take and pull a few needles off, kind of run your hands down a branch. And if it seems like you're losing a lot of needles, choose a different tree. If you're going to a choose and cut farm, there's still a few that are open. Some people stay open up until Christmas Eve because of those traditions. You'll get a fresh tree then. And then the most important thing is to make sure that you water your tree. At first that tree takes a lot of water. So when you get it home, be sure to water it. And don't just put it in your garage and leave it for a day or two, because the sap will kind of make a little barrier for the water to go up through the stump part. So be sure to get it in some water right away and water it often. And then keep it away from the heat source.
Yeah, when we hear, should you ask if you go to a tree farm or a tree lot for them to cut the bottom portion for you right there in front of you?
Yes, I would. I'd ask them to take a couple inches off the bottom. And that way, unless you're good at with the saw yourself at home, or your husband does or something. But for me, I always say, hey, can you cut it for me? And a lot of them will do a drill in the bottom, so it'll stay in a pin stand and stuff, and stay straight for you when you put it up.
Yeah, no, we don't need any injuries. Have the professionals do that. And with that though, how do you know if a tree is fresh? Should you ask, when were these trees cut? Because what is that timeline typically like?
Well, it can be, early November when a tree is cut. But, the trees are kept in a way that will stay fresh for that time period. It's just, once you make that fresh cut, it'll start absorbing and kind of almost act as if it's, coming alive again. It'll take the water and it'll kind of bounce back. So that's important. But the most important thing, most of them, of course, everybody's going to say my trees are fresh, of course, and they are, but just kind of feel them and look at them. But you should know if it seems fresh.
So what is the timeline? Is it like a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks when we say fresh? Or what is that timeline from cutting to buying? What is the perfect time?
Well, it varies, and it varies based on the type of tree too. You don't want to get a tree, let's say, maybe a Douglas fir, and have it, cut for a long time, because they don't hold their needles as well if it's been a long time period. But, like I said, it depends on the type of tree and what you're getting, and where the tree is. We've had really good weather this year for Christmas trees to be outside and to kind of stay in that like refrigerated kind of climate. When it goes real hot and then real cold, that's kind of tough on the trees too. And we've had a lot of overcast days, and that helps too, so the sun's not baking on them.
Is there an option for people who love getting a real Christmas tree and the smell that it brings to their home, but they feel bad about using a tree that's cut down and then is, just disposed of on the curb once the holiday is over? Can you buy a tree that you can plant, or is there a way to recycle these as well?
Oh, a couple things there. One, keep in mind these trees are grown for the purpose of harvesting, just like corn or pumpkins or anything like that. That's the grower's livelihood. So you're supporting farming, Michigan farming, by buying a real Christmas tree. So don't feel bad about doing it. They're planting 1 to 2 more right in the spot for that tree that has been taken out. But there also is what's called a living tree, which is kind of a root. It has the root system in it, and you can plant it outside. Some people opt to do something like that, and that way they don't feel like they're killing a tree. Although the trees that are disposed of after the holidays are usually chipped up and used in mulch in city parks. They're recycled, and that's the thing with Christmas trees. It's a renewable and recyclable resource for Michigan, because we do use those disposed trees for other things. So, a lot of cities will chip them and then put them through their parks, or you can also put it in your yard after you take it down in your house, and you can decorate it in your yard and see, the birds perching on it, and then, dispose of it.
So I have noticed over the past few years, it seems like the farmers are starting to realize the trends and using the leftover portions of the tree for decorating and building like these beautiful pots for your front porch or for garland and this, that, and the other. Because it used to be you could go to a lot and be like, hey, can I get your tree trimmings? And they'd be like, oh, yeah, here. Now they're like, okay, that'll be 25 bucks. So it's evolving, right?
Yeah, they are doing some beautiful stuff, like at garland and tabletop decorations, and the wreaths and things like that. A lot of farms will give you whatever they trim off, like when you take your tree over and say, hey, I want so much room underneath for my presents, can you remove these branches? A lot of them will give you those branches. But they will sell bundles of those, because so many people are doing the porch pots and things like that. But yeah, I hope that that's another part of Michigan's economy too, that the growers bring, is in those products that they're selling. So if somebody says, I don't do a real Christmas tree, consider going out to those farms and buying the other things that can add to the scent in your home and that type of thing, and kind of give it that real Christmas feel in your home.
Yeah, I will say that's one of the things I do, because you talk to a lot of firefighters, and real Christmas trees for them are like a devastation, because they can cause fires when people don't properly care for them. But I'm just lazy now as I get older, and I get the fake tree because I find needles like in June and July. I'm like, I thought I cleaned all these up, but I get the garland and all of the branches and make my own tree pots and things of that nature. So at least my house still has the smell and the look of Christmas.
Oh yeah. And I pick up all the needles too, and I always think, oh, nature's confetti. It's just part of what it is. But it just gives you that, that smell and the aroma. And, for me, it's the bringing my kids out to the farm and seeing all the people getting excited. And it just really puts me in the spirit to go get that real tree, or, buy the wreaths and all the stuff.
So we're in the middle of a pandemic. How has it changed how Michigan's tree farmers try to reach the public? Are they utilizing social media now more than ever to try to share the story behind the process of actually, growing a Christmas tree?
Yes. And it's kind of interesting because we have kind of a different situation with our growers. Some are like very much off the grid, they don't do the internet. I try to email them and they're like, I don't do email or something. And then you have some that are really into the whole social media aspect of it. Some young growers have really come up with creative things. But in Michigan, we have what's called in the United States, actually, the Christmas Tree Promotion Board. And it's kind of like the beef what's for dinner or the avocados from Mexico. It promotes Christmas trees and that throughout the US. And basically, they help do a lot of promotion. They do a lot of social media stuff and to encourage people to go out to get real Christmas trees. And then social media, like I said, some of the growers are just fantastic about, getting their ideas out and their hours, their business plans and stuff like that out. So people know, hey, this grower they're open and they're doing best practices for COVID. So let's go visit them this year.
With that though, it's like their window of opportunity to sell seems so small.
Oh, it's like,
What do they do like the other 11 months out of the year?
well, I thought when I got into this business several years ago, hey, this is going to be the best job in the world. I'm going to work for like a month, right? No, it's a lot more than that. There's a lot of education that goes into growing Christmas trees. So they do a lot of, in the off season, they do a lot of classes. They do a lot of trimming of their trees. Like I said, fertilizing, scouting, there's different things you have to make sure that, your trees don't get like a needle cast, things like that, because that's your investment. So you have to be on your trees, looking them over all the time, making sure that nothing's happening to them. So that takes a lot of time, and then in the off time, they also have to, sharpen all their equipment and they have mowers that they are kind of tweaking all the time and making sure that those are running appropriately. And then, in the decorating portion of when you go to a Christmas tree farm, you see it's all decorated. That takes a lot of time too, to prepare for the customer. So there's always something to do.
So when you're looking at it, really though, their business model is that month it is really setting the stage for the rest of the year in their business. Their profit is about that 1 month.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And it starts that weekend after Thanksgiving, and it's that week. And then there's probably about 2 more weeks. And then it's, kind of most people by the 10th, usually most people have their Christmas tree. But yeah, it's a quick season. You have to be ready.
Oh my gosh. I was amazed. Last year, I remember meeting the people in Eastern Market here in Detroit. They were from up north and they bring a camper down and they live down in the Metro Detroit area in their camper until their season is over. And I don't think people really understand the sacrifice that really goes into that one Christmas tree.
Oh, like I said, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of time. It's years. It's a year, many, many years of investment. And but it's such a wonderful thing because it just does bring so much joy to people. And, they're so happy, to be able to produce this product that it's the centerpiece of people's homes for the holidays.
It really is. It's the backdrop of our memories. So, with that, Amy, before we let you go, just another question or two. And I wonder about employees. What's it been like for them to get employees to go into this industry? Because I would think that a lot of these are kind of family traditions where it was the grandfather to the father to the son. Is that interest still there with the younger generation? And are these tree farmers struggling for people to take up this legacy?
Yes, they are. It's interesting. There's several growers that it's been the generational farm, and then the son goes away and says, "Ah, I don't want anything to do with it." They spend a little time out in corporate America. They've maybe got a degree from state or something, then goes get a job working at a desk, and pretty soon they're back in the business again, because they're like, I really liked this better working for myself. So you see that, but then you also see if they don't have children, that's been an issue, or maybe they have girls and the girls don't want anything to do with it, and then the son-in-laws don't. So that kind of has been a problem. But also just getting help, and getting help this year has been super hard, because a lot of times they employ local teens, things like that, and just getting people to want to work during COVID has not been that easy. So it's been tough.
When do they actually start harvesting the trees? Is it mid-November?
No, it's early November.
Early November. So, because you would wonder maybe too if it would help, because so many of the students were, remote learning per se, so they could go out there and get jobs and help out and carry a legacy.
Yeah, and what the most help that a lot of people need too is, like at a choose and cut farm, just that moving customers, the filling the hot chocolates, things like that, the smaller jobs, kind of just making sure that the flow, especially during COVID, that there was an in and there's an out, and people are separated and all that, which is great at a Christmas tree farm because we got lots of acreage anyways for that separation. But that's where you need so many more people. And in farms, they not only have their staff, and a lot of times that's their family, but then they also hire locals and stuff to help them. And this year it's just been really challenging.
Well, the good thing though is it seems like a lot of our Christmas tree farmers are going to have a very Merry Christmas, because sales have been up and the tree lots are now empty. Our local guy pulled out last week ahead of schedule because he was out of product. And so we're wishing them a very Merry Christmas, because they do so much to bring us that real Christmas tree experience.
Yes. And, they're so happy they get to have a Christmas too, because there's been many years where they are right up till the 23rd, 24th trying to sell those trees, because once they're cut, that's it, So they're happy this year. It's been a great, great year for them.
Well, that is good to know. We need a little bit of a silver lining in the middle of this pandemic. Amy, start with us. She's the executive director for the Michigan Christmas Tree Association. Amy, before I let you go, anything maybe I didn't mention that you want to touch on?
Just, know that if you do still need to go to a Christmas tree farm, go to our website, which is mcta.org. And there's a list of choose and cut farms on there, and also retail lots. So you can find out if the farm is still open. You could call ahead. That way you don't make a trip and find out that they're not open. And just know that the farms are incorporating best practices to keep you safe. So go take your family. Take your camera. It's a great spot to take some beautiful pictures. And right now, I mean, we don't really have much to take pictures of all at our homes. So this is a great opportunity for you. So, enjoy that. And again, we're just so thankful that the community came out and supported our industry. And, we wish everybody a Merry Christmas.
Well, we say the same to you and all of the farmers out there as well. Happy holidays, and thank you for what you do to bring these memories into our homes.
Thank you. Have a great day.